Welcome to the What You Need to H2 Know podcast, where we feature the people, places, and projects shaping Ontario's water community. I'm Michelle Grenier, the Executive Director of the Ontario Waterworks Association. Throughout February, we're sharing a special mini-series called Flowing into Leadership. In these short episodes, we're introducing you to the candidates running for election to the OWWA Board of Directors. Each conversation offers a brief look at their background, what motivates them in the water sector, and how they see the role of the board in supporting OWWA's members and advancing the industry. Today, I'm pleased to be joined by Diane Moreau from the City of Barrie, who's standing for election to the OWWA board this year. Hi, Diane.
Good morning, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
How are you doing? Oh, my pleasure. Before we jump into our questions, I'd like to ask you to introduce yourself a bit to our listeners, and maybe if you can share what you do for your day job and your involvement with OWWA, and if there's anything else you want our listeners to know about you right out of the gate.
Sure. Well, again, Diane Moreau. I work in the City of Barrie. I've worked here for 20 years, but I've worked in the water operations department now for about 10 years in a couple different roles. So currently as the manager of water operations, so primarily from source to tap, customer service, distribution, treatment and supply. And previous to that, I was doing some compliance work for our water operations team. I've been part of the certification and education committee with OWWA since 2016. That's also gone by pretty quick. And I've been lucky enough to be involved in some other AWWA initiatives like the Transformative Water Leadership Academy, being one of the inaugural graduates of that, and still being involved as a coach and mentor for that program. So that's a little bit of my day-to-day. And things I like to do outside of work is I'm now an empty nester, so I'm just trying to figure it out. Spending a lot of time with my husband again and doing the things kind of we enjoy to do.
Oh, that's great. I think a lot of folks find themselves sort of surprised to have landed in the water sector. You know, most of us don't set out to start here. Can you tell us a bit about what drew you to the water sector originally and what's kept you engaged over time?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to actually my undergraduate university. I did my undergrad in environmental studies and had an opportunity to take some electives in earth sciences and stumbled across hydrogeology and absolutely became fascinated with it. Really didn't know much about it before then. And we were lucky enough to have a campus where you could actually go out in the field and see well and see how it all kind of works. So that was my initial interest in it. And then I got into consulting where primarily initially it was contaminant work. And it gave me some stretch opportunities to work in other offices where they were doing clean water work. So drinking water systems for municipalities and utilities, and kind of got to see, things I learned in school and the real life application of those. Always been interested, took a little detour along the way in environmental work and came back, like I said, 10 years ago into the water. So just always been really passionate since, I guess, days of university.
Oh, that's neat. What aspects of working in the water sector do you find most meaningful or motivating, especially when the work is challenging?
I think ultimately motivating is knowing the work that we do and the importance from a public health perspective, right? And understanding that our residents and our customers are really looking to us for having that safe and reliable drinking water source.
Yeah, I think
question, Michelle. Sorry, I think that's part of the question.
Nope, that's okay. And can you tell us more about how you use that duty to your customers to keep yourself motivated, especially when you're faced with some challenging situations?
Yeah, I think it's ultimately seeing that importance and that purpose that we have and having, it's almost like the tangible impacts, like seeing that our frontline work doing the education, whether it's a water main breakthrough and fixing, or the calls we're getting from residents and saying, like, thanks for the great work you're doing, and or a large, project and seeing it through to fruition. I think it's just seeing the impact in that purpose, even though it's challenging, seeing ultimately the output, the outcome.
Yeah, I think a lot of your colleagues would share that sentiment, and I think that's why we all stay. Thinking about if we look at your role in leadership and whether that's, professionally with the city or otherwise, or even with OWWA, in your career so far, what's one lesson or experience that has shaped how you approach leadership or decision making?
It's a really good question. I don't think I would say it's one lesson or one experience. I think it's lessons than experiences in time. And I think what I would say is maybe from a leadership perspective is it's not so much that technical piece along the way. It's about leading. And I think that's what coming with providing that clarity to your team. So whether it's establishing what your strategic plans or initiatives are, or your goals or expectations, and why we're doing the work that we're doing, I think is really important to your teams and building that trust and supporting your teams moving forward. It ultimately, if you have all those things, it should be easier to make the decisions you need to make as a leader than having the teams to, come along with you and helping you make those decisions moving forward.
Yeah. Thinking about this, sorry, I didn't prep you on this question, but your experience with the Transformative Water Leadership Academy. So for our listeners who don't know, that's a AWWA and WEF program, I think, jointly. Can you tell us more about, were there any lessons you took away from that, or were there any people you met who were, particularly inspiring?
What I think what was really interesting for me when I went through it the first time, certainly those leadership aspects that we learned, but I think the takeaways was just understanding that really didn't matter where you were in North America, we were all experiencing same but different challenges. I learned a lot about challenges we may not necessarily be experiencing now, maybe we have in the past, and maybe we be in the future, right? So you're planning for those potential where, an example of that would be the drought. It's a significant issue in a lot of the American states, and that was discussed quite a bit, and the challenges they're having with water quantity. We are lucky enough and varied that isn't an issue, but we should be thinking about it, right? It is a risk. We should be thinking of climate change and the impacts it has, and if that's something that was a takeaway. So these are some things I learned. It wasn't even necessarily, the day-to-day workshops we're having as part of the Leadership Academy, but like you said, it's having those interactions, speaking with people, and just learning or sharing that we all are kind of in the same boat when it comes to drinking water challenges. And
Yeah. I think the theme of everybody's having to do more with less, right? It's a bit cliche, but I guess there's some comfort in knowing that it's universal.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. So shifting, we've been looking back a little bit. Now, if we start to look forward, if you could influence one area or aspect of the water sector over the course of your career, what would it be and why is that important to you?
I think influencing something I would look at influencing, which I'm really trying to do is I think it's public trust. I think once public trust is lost, especially when it comes to drinking water, it's really something hard to rebuild. I think we're certainly seeing it across not only Canada, but let's say North America, where there's just this distrust with government institutions, right? And so how do we continue moving forward and trying to bridge that gap and influence those who are going to make the decision when it comes to the safety of your drinking water? I think that's challenging. And so, getting the information from your community and understanding how you can move forward with a really good communications plan that might help you in bridging that gap. So maybe it's redirecting that. It might be redirecting it at our residents' children or the children's children or whatever it might be, right? Because I think it's really hard to change someone's decision on whether they believe their water is safe or not to drink. So, we've gone into our community, we've done drinking water surveys, we've heard what people are saying. We've tried to make some adjustments in our drinking water system that could maybe help some of the water quality concerns. But it's mostly about how we get out, how we communicate what we're doing, and that it is safe. And that's really challenging. So anyways, that's something I would like to hopefully influence even a little bit marginally in my career. We've made some improvements and some steps towards that, but the data that we're getting is suggesting that shift in mindset really hasn't changed.
Yeah, I think we all have a long way to go there. But it's important for sure. So thinking about, so you just had me thinking there about how can OWWA support its utility members in helping with that communication. So I'm going to have to take that one away. So building on that, from your perspective as an OWWA member, where do you think the association can have the greatest impact for the sector over the next few years?
I think it's increasing workforce pressures. I know that OWWA also has their task force, which I'm part of that. But there's certainly room there, and I think OWWA could certainly continue to support and strengthen that and help with, developing this workforce or helping us promote the profession and promote that work that we do. So I think there is room to grow there. And like I said, I think OWWA is certainly making some progress towards that. And I think we just need to continue doing that. So I think it's really important. We're seeing a lot of retirements. We're seeing a lot of fewer applicants, fewer skilled applicants. And where do we start? And so, like I said earlier, from an education perspective, I think that's the same with future workforces, starting maybe in the elementary schools, looking more towards the high schools and really promoting the work that we do in the profession. Right? So
yeah, I think, we've struggled with the idea that careers in water are not all that appealing initially, but I think if we could show how rewarding it is, we might have some better success with that recruiting. But
absolutely.
Yeah, the role of the task force, like you said, the education and outreach task force that you're a part of, is really good, is a key part of our strategic plan for the next few years. So thinking about the role of the board itself, how do you see the role of an OWWA board member, and how would you approach that responsibility if you are elected?
Well, I think like you just mentioned, I think a part of it is being part of the board is looking at strategic governance and having that thoughtful oversight, looking at the long-term direction of the association. And I know that the strategic plan is to 2026, so you're looking at updating that. So I think that's all part of that. My approach, I think, would be the same way I approach most things I do, whether it's coming to work every day. I'm on a lot of other committees. I've been on a lot of cross-functional teams in the city, whether it's inside the city or outside the city. And I think I generally come with, the integrity and the commitment to our public and the members as well as OWWA. And, being that collaborative person and contributing, I will contribute, that's for sure. So I think that's how I approach it. I think how I approach my day-to-day work really be different.
Yeah, well, that sounds great. And just as we get close to wrapping up here, I'll ask you if there's anything you'd like our members to know about you or about why you're interested in serving on the board.
And I think we've touched on a few of them, but I think it's just my commitment to the water sector. I know we've mentioned, I've been on a couple of committees, I've been on the Transformative Water Leadership Academy. It's about supporting, the leaders of tomorrow and the young professionals that are coming into the water industry. Supporting them, but also supporting the operators of today, right? We still have the work that we need to do today and how we can continue supporting them in the roles that we do. I think that's it.
Yeah. Well, I think on that note, I want to say thank you again for all the work that you do on behalf of OWWA and on behalf of your consumers in Barrie. And it sounds like they're in great hands. And to our listeners, I want to invite you to please help me in thanking Diane for taking the time to chat with us today and for her willingness to run in this election and to, continue to serve the association. And I would invite our listeners to tune into this episode of Flowing into Leadership as well as the others to learn more about all of the candidates and to take part in the upcoming board election. The polls will open on March 17th, and the successful candidates will be announced at our annual general meeting on May 4th. Only members who have an active membership as of March 16th are eligible to vote. So if you're not yet a member of OWWA, but you want to support your preferred candidate, please check out the membership tab on our website at owwwa.ca or contact us at waterinfo@owwwa.ca. And again, Diane, it was a pleasure chatting with you. and all the best in the upcoming election.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It was great doing this podcast with you today.
Great, and I hope we'll have a chance to have another chat another day. All right, thanks everyone. Until next time.